And we are live. I'm looking forward to hearing the reactions from Nicole and Keith tonight. That debate went by very quickly, fast talking. A lot of ground was covered. So we're not going to be able to touch on every subject tonight, but I'm looking forward to hear what Keith wants to know from Nicole. Welcome, Keith.
Hi,
Here we
Alyssa.
are.
It was an
Keith,
amazing debate.
you are the EcoCentric radio host. I know you to also be a journalist, and you have been helping out with Nicole's campaign. Is there anything else you'd like the audience to know?
Well, I'm very concerned about climate change. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, climate activist Keith, and
Yes.
let's welcome
That would be the
Nicole
case,
in.
I wanted to ask Nicole about how she thought John Horgan did because both Sonia Furstenau and Andrew Wilkinson really tried to hammer him with the unnecessary election. Nicole, did you think that Horgan pulled it off with saying it's never wrong to ask to talk to British Columbians and get their decision? Do you think it worked?
Well, it didn't work on me.
No, I don't think so.
It feels like the same response he's been giving since the beginning, and I don't know. I know that here in this writing, it's not been bought, and I didn't hear it come across any better tonight. How about you? What are you thinking?
I didn't. I thought it was pretty thin too. Did you have any really stunning points? I thought that Sonia had some amazing moments in this debate. Did you?
Her clarity and her presence and her ability to rise, I want to say rise above. I feel a little bad saying that, but that's how it appears to me that, there's a lot of bickering and finger pointing, and she just does, she resists a lot. And I think she really just sort of always sees that bigger picture and gets us there with vision. So I continue to be impressed by her.
We did have a comment on the watch party that said Sonia is so lucid compared to these, and human compared to these two jokers.
Right?
That resonated.
And that human piece, I mean, the whole question around, can you please tell us how you're checking your privilege? And from, checking your own privilege. And it took to get to Sonia before that question was genuinely and honestly answered. It wasn't that outward perspective, but she took that moment and heard the question well.
And when
Nicole, I'd love to know your answer to that question.
I feel like I'm constantly checking it. So I didn't, I appreciated Sonia had a moment where it sort of all came clear for her. And I have to say, part of why I'm running is somewhat to check it, check my privilege. I'm recognizing that I have it, and I do feel somewhat a responsibility to use it in the best way I can to help the broadest number of people. And I can't pretend to represent anybody other than, white women in any authentic way. I think I can relate to, and I've had situations in my life that have, made me a minority, have been abusive. There have been all sorts of situations that I've either seen or experienced. So I think that if I can continue to move ahead in life with compassion and open-mindedness and an open heart, that I will continue to be schooled on a daily basis. And I just have to forgive myself on a regular basis for what I learn and maybe what I've forgotten over my life.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Nicole, what did you think about when Sonia Furstenau was talking about the apprehension of First Nations children continuing in Canada? I thought that was just the most stunning moment in the debate. Did you notice that as well?
I did, and I've been aware of her work in that regard, and it almost as if she was asked Like, why would you do that? And her response again was, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's perpetuating residential school type behavior, right? And so there it is. It's still here. And her willingness to see it and do what she can with the powers that she's got in that regard is just such, she's such a role model to all of us. And I hope that I can represent in the same way that she can.
So it was pretty surprising to hear Andrew Wilkinson admit that we have to phase out fossil fuels in 30 years.
And to be attacking the NDP for their climate behavior.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But did Horgan adequately rationalize the LNG, the largest point source of carbon emissions in Canada's future? Did Horgan even address that properly?
I didn't hear it. I wondered if maybe I gapped. Did you catch something I missed?
No, he did not hear it. He says it fits within the Clean BC plan, which that's their line.
And we did it with the Greens, so that means it's legit because, Andrew Weaver was on the team. Yeah, we know that. Andrew Weaver will admit it's not there yet. And we know the NDP are out talking about, we're there, that's great. And we know it's not. So yeah, interesting to see the NDP and Liberals fight about that when I don't see a whole lot of difference in their actual policies and behavior.
Is it encouraging to see a debate that sort of is all over pretty much? We didn't hear much about business as usual. Like the NDP has done a lot of business as usual, but nobody's talking that way right now. Even the Liberals aren't, are they? So it was interesting that the whole tenor of the debate was about important social issues, and it was pretty stunning that way. I noticed that particularly. Did you?
I did, and I noticed that they were really picking up on the issues that I'm hearing at the door right now in our own writing. So I did enjoy the discussion from that perspective. Mm-hmm.
And they talk quite a bit of housing, particularly Wilkinson, which is a little ironic. But do you think the party leaders acquitted themselves on the housing question very well?
I'm trying to remember. We started with, this came before cost of living, right? I did note the NDP. That was when I really felt Horgan was giving us a lot of nods. So, the work on the speculation tax and money laundering came up during that housing conversation. So that was interesting. I liked the one-liner that Horgan had of, dignity of a roof over their head, right? So this is our goal, and I think we can all align with that. But I didn't hear enough specifics personally that impressed me. I heard lots of rhetoric, I guess.
Yeah, Horgan claimed that together with the Greens, we've done lots on housing, but I don't think people are really feeling that. Do you?
No, I mean, if we're talking our local area, I think there's a feeling that we've, Nelson has had quite a bit of low-income housing, but I know I'm hearing there's still a large gap. And then there's, other communities in our riding that haven't seen any at all. So whatever they're saying provincially, it's not translated locally. And I know as Green Party, we'd like to invest a heck of a lot more money in housing. So I would have preferred to hear more solid commitments tonight for sure.
And sort of the key economic question for BC is whether we invest in big fossil fuel and industrial projects, remote projects, or whether we invest in our communities. And Sonia Furstenau touched on that quite well, didn't you think?
No, I agree. And I think the other parties tried to argue that, well, these big mega projects are helping communities. But I think she's, made it clear it's not really true. And it's not what I'm hearing here in the riding. Just today, I had 2 conversations about how it pulls our youth out of our communities here when you do mega projects in other parts of the province. So, let alone the environmental damage that certain communities are experiencing, and other reasons we're frustrated by those projects.
And one of the other powerful moments was when they were talking about old growth.
Mm.
That was certainly Sonia's territory. I don't think. Well, Horgan repeated their line that they've protected 335,000 hectares, but if you look into it, it's quite a greenwash. Have you heard? You are familiar with that?
Well, it's our local scientists that really supported the information that's supporting or not supporting Horgan's claim that they are protecting old growth. Essentially, they smoke and mirrors, and we have the local experts to prove that wrong. And I would be taking that with me to the legislature. Those advisors are in our back pocket in this riding. So really grateful to know the truth on that.
Yeah, I thought that was a point in the debate when the Sonia really nailed Horgan was on the logging, and he didn't do it all well on it. Yeah.
Agreed.
Can you remind us what the truth is for our audience members who might not know?
Well, they deferred logging in 335,000 hectares, a lot of which was already protected in some way. They're folding in old stuff, and then there's a lot that's still permitted. And Rachel Holt mentioned to me the other day, the local forestry, that this isn't really going to dent the amount of cutting of old growth in the province. It's not really going to reduce the amount of old growth, particularly on Vancouver Island and on the coast, but in the interior too. There are still large swaths of old growth that they didn't protect. So,
and added to that, I think, Keith, that there's lands in that over 300,000 hectares that isn't even old growth.
Yeah, that's what Sonia touched on tonight.
The whole thing, right? It's from every angle, it's a fallacy.
Yeah, well, and then they protected the Nkamaplu, with which the beautiful valley, but it's pretty much unloggable. So they're protecting something that the logging companies couldn't afford to log. So
that's right.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, so it's something under 100,000 hectares, I believe, is more accurate of what they're protecting, and it's missing, the oldest of old growth.
The main point is it's not going to slow the cutting rate at all, that plan.
That's right.
From what the scientists say. So, yeah. That was a telling point when Sonia pointed out that we're cutting trees just far faster than we can afford to. Yeah. And Horgan certainly didn't deal with it, and I wouldn't have expected Wilkinson to at all.
Right. I know. I was surprised a few times, for sure.
Yeah.
Wilkinson was funny when he was supposed to be asking Sonia, but he really just couldn't help himself from talking to Horgan and pointing his finger. There's something about that fighting thing they just seem to fall into. They can't help themselves. Oh.
Yeah, the format of the debate wasn't ideal for a three-way thing. Yeah. And maybe just having two men and a woman, also not ideal. Yeah, could be. But all in all, it was very civil. Didn't you find it civil?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, given, it's been worse in the legislature, so. Yeah.
And we get to compare ourselves to the American election that's happening right now, which is far less civil.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Nicole, do you think they did a good enough job of talking about the homelessness and the opioid crisis and some of the deep social problems we have in BC?
I did notice Sonia raising a few times in her early answers, and then there was the section where we were supposed to talk about that. I heard barely anything about the opioid crisis, although I did leave a couple of short breaks, so I was wondering if I missed it, but I didn't hear a whole lot there.
No.
How about you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And John Horgan actually mistakenly called the opioid crisis the pandemic.
Oh, yes, right.
One track mind.
Right, I did catch that. Yeah. So I guess it was avoided. I don't remember any of the questions being specific anyway. They just announced the broad topic, and it was listed, but I didn't. Anyway, no, I don't think they covered that enough.
No, and it was kind of interesting to have Andrew Wilkinson going after Horgan for not dealing with the homeless crisis and talking about permanent tent cities and effectively Wilkinson's attacking from sort of a progressive position that would normally be NDP territory. That's what's really encouraging. That's obviously they're playing to what British Columbians want to hear.
That's right.
And
it sounds very green, doesn't it?
It sure does. Yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of used to that. It's now we actually have people out saying it in elected positions, but it's nice to be hearing it. And at the end of the day, who cares who gets credit, right? It's if we're moving in the right direction, yay.
Yeah, we are.
It was inspiring to see how often they talked about working together.
The one other point near the beginning, I've lost it. Sonia was. I've totally lost my point. It went away.
I'm going to show a comment here from Rosanna Maria. Can you see that on your screen?
Oh, nice.
Oh, thanks, Rosanna. Woo! I got to tell you, it's pretty fun going to the door, and so many people have voted already. And to show up to a door where I don't know people, and they open the door and go, "Oh, it's you! We just voted for you." It feels so good. I'm trying not to become an egomaniac, but I can see how it can happen. Yeah. It's pretty so thanks for that. That's always keeps you going in these intense campaigns, knowing people are voting. That's pretty cool, actually. That's actually maybe a nice change. It's a voting period versus a voting day.
Right.
Maybe, well,
I did want to touch on, before we shut down this evening, I wanted to touch on the reconciliation question. And what your stance is on that and how you felt the leaders handled it.
It's really, it's difficult. I really admire Sonia for standing up and calling out that, a big gesture was made, and everybody there, all leaders, supported DRIPA, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which was our enshrinement of the UN Declaration. And it's in such an early stages, right? We have so much colonialism to undo, and when it's mostly white people trying to decide what to do, it just feels very awkward for me to even state an opinion in this regard, right? So that's I don't know that there's good answers coming from us, right? So I appreciate that Sonia takes the stance that we need to be making major gestures right from the get-go, and we're already failing, right? So that's pretty much where I sit on that. I don't know if either of you want to add your thoughts.
I just want to express gratitude for the compassion in your answer. Thank you.
And perhaps since we didn't do it, even though it's traditional to do it at the beginning, I think it's still appropriate to do right now, that we acknowledge and respect and honor that we are on unceded territories. Tonight, I am on Ktunaxa traditional territories, and our riding encompasses Secwepemc, Sinites, and Okanagan to the west. All nations here we respect and honor, and we'll do our best to represent, and are open to all nations and discussions in our territory here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go back to old style politics a bit?
Yes.
Yeah, we just took our moment. It's good.
Near,
I like that
near,
it wasn't right at the beginning, the end. Sure, move on.
near the beginning, I wanted to ask you, Nicole, because Andrew Wilkinson made his promise to get rid of the
PST.
sales tax for a year, the PST for a year. Sonia just took him to task for it, didn't she?
Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with my economics background, I hear that stuff and I'm just like, oh, what are they? But yeah, I mean, I fully support. That's another $6-7 billion gone with. And what's the aim? So that we can all get out shopping more. I don't know that that's sort of a measurable outcome that I want to get into government for. Sorry, not very. Yeah, it wasn't very inspiring. So she took him to task, and I was and definitely one of the moments tonight. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to work with that woman so bad. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that she had a very good performance? Do you think Sonia's performance will really bring us more voters across the province out of today?
I don't think it hurt.
No, it sure didn't hurt.
It sure didn't hurt. And as much as I love Andrew Weaver, I know not everybody's a fan, but he's we do consider each other friends. I almost could not watch him in the leadership debate last time. So for me, this was it was a good change. I'm proud of our leader, and I know that people in this riding are proud of her. I hear it at the door more than I've ever heard about a leader at the door before. So she's had a big impact in a very short period of time, and it will be an honor if I get voted in. It will be an honor to work with her.
Yeah, her personal presence came through quite effectively.
Yeah. And she got the center spot. I mean, it's just like all the yeses. The yeses are just flowing. Sorry, what was that, Alyssa?
It was a really great introduction to Sonia for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people had never seen or listened to her voice before. And so I think that she showed up.
She really, really did. I have no complaints.
Yeah. Before we close here, I just want to share some kind words from Brad about your answer regarding the reconciliation question. If you are not uncomfortable talking about these issues, you're not addressing the issue.
That's right. From Brad. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of discussions in the campaign about how to acknowledge, when to acknowledge, and the tendency to just, don't bother if it's awkward and uncomfortable. And I can say that in the last 3 weeks, I've really been practicing that, and I'm getting more comfortable with the uncomfortableness.
Yeah. Okay, any closing remarks from either of you?
Sure went by fast.
It sure did.
I know, I was thinking an hour and a half. I don't know if I can handle it, but it did. It went by quickly. Yeah, and it's so great that it went positively, just like everything else on this campaign has been. Just continue to acknowledge we're in the right place, advocating for the right things. And it just feels really good. And thanks to the two of you for spending a little extra time with me tonight.
And thanks to everyone who has already voted, and advanced polling starts day after tomorrow. So get out there and get your ballots in. Let's elect Nicole Charlwood as the Nelson-Creson MLA.
Anyway, so many days, lots of work ahead of us. We got to earn this. Okay. So let's keep at it.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Keith. Good night.